please welcome Matt and Kendall Hagee.
Hello and welcome to The Difference. Today we're talking about being refined, not defined. You know, sometimes life can be a real roller coaster, ups and downs, twists and turns, wild swings, and completely unexpected circumstances. But instead of letting those circumstances define you, with God's help, they can refine you.
Amen.
They can help you understand more about His grace, His mercy, and His faithfulness, even in the most difficult days of your life.
That's right. So, good Lord, I'm grateful. Hashtag is GLIG. Send in your pictures and flood social media. Because, good Lord, I'm grateful for God's promises. Because I know whichever road I go down, it may be rough and difficult, but God is the planner and He will pull me out from where I'm at.
Be sure to connect with us over Facebook and let us know exactly what it is you're grateful for. As a matter of fact, we want you to take a look right now.
Want a behind-the-scenes look at The Difference? Learn interesting facts about our guests, comment on our segments, and find out more about the show by following Matt and Kendall Hagee on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
What you see is a child reaching for her mother. There is nothing more beautiful than for a child to know that they're loved. There are thousands of children who are reaching for someone who will not reach back because they're not there. This is the reason we're building the Sanctuary of Hope. I want you to help me help these children have a mother that will take care of them, that will love them, that when they cry in the night, someone will come. When they get hungry, someone will feed them. When it comes time to teach them the way of the Lord, that someone will be there. And together, with the Sanctuary of Hope, we can make this happen. God bless you for all that you do to make the Sanctuary of Hope a reality.
Help give the gift of life. Call the number on the screen or visit jhm.org.
Do the hardships of life cause you to question your faith? Through prayer, faith, and the gospel of Jesus Christ, the John Hagee Ministries prayer line hopes to bring healing and restoration to every caller. Call the prayer line today or go to jhm.org and let us share the healing words of the gospel with you.
Dear Pastor Hagee, I just wanted to write you to say how honored Rayla Jean and I are to have been partners in your ministry all these years, and to see all the amazing things you've accomplished around the world with the gifts we and others like us have gladly given over the years. Furthermore, it has been so refreshing to see younger generations coming on board to partner with you in spreading Christ's message to the world.
I want to welcome you both to partnership with John Hagee Ministries. Together, we will make a great impact for Christ around the world.
May God continue prospering you in all your endeavors. Your dear friends, Ron and Rayla Jean.
I want to thank you, our Salt Covenant partners, for making it possible for us to preach the gospel to the nations of the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
Become a Salt Covenant partner today. Call the toll-free number on the screen or visit us online at jhm.org.
Want a behind-the-scenes look at The Difference? Learn interesting facts about our guests, comment on our segments, and find out more about the show by following Matt and Kendall Hagee on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Our first guest is a best-selling author with a background in government, education, psychology, human development. Please welcome to The Difference, Dr. Cindy Trimm. Dr. Trimm, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. So we're talking about being refined, not defined. And,
Yeah.
and your book has really struck a chord with
Yes,
my wife. There's a big
Prevail.
diamond on the front
A big
of it.
diamond, which draws my attention.
I know.
Prevail, discover your strength in hard places.
Yeah.
Tell me.
We're
the
tougher
title?
than our hard times. And one of the things that I discovered in writing that book, someone from Russia wrote me, and they were suicidal, and they asked me, why does life always have problems? And I thought that's an interesting question. So I wrote her back a short paragraph and encouraged her. She wrote me back and she said, explain it more. So I ended up with a page. And then she wrote me back. And that's how that book was birthed. It was birthed because someone asked one of those tough questions. They were having a tough time. And then God began to talk to me about the prospering power of problems. That was the original title of the book. And it was too long. I just called it Prevail. And the last revelation God gave me was the revelation of a diamond. And it came from looking at that particular picture. And that inspired the whole facet and who we are as human beings.
You know, as you talk about the analogy of a diamond, they're obviously certainly made more beautiful with the more intense situations they go through. And in many cases, life is the same way. The more intense the circumstance, the more beautiful it can become.
Truly. It's the pressure and it's the heat that makes a diamond. And I found out something about a diamond. And the analogy that God gave me, the diamond comes from from a Latin word, adamus. And the name that God selected for humanity was Adam.
Yeah.
The shortened version of Adamus is the root word, basically. And so, when we look at life, people want to know, how do I do life better? And is there a reason why hard times have to be a part of our scenario? And I think life strategies, being able to help people with their life strategies, and very few people look to the Bible and consider the Bible as a book of life strategies, because that's what it is, basically.
Absolutely, it's a teaching aid.
Yeah, and so helping people and using principles, biblical principles, and making them very practical to show them how tough they really are, and that tough times don't have to define you,
That's right. And you talk about getting back in the driver's seat.
Yes.
What does that mean? Taking the initiative
taking your power back. God has given you power. The Bible says that, we overcome because of this power that works in us. And there's something that Saul said to David that was so amazing. He prophesies now. Firstly, his sociopath.
Correct.
And he prophesies to David. He said, God is going to help you to prevail. God's going to help you to overcome. And he was a part of the problem anyway.
Correct.
But I've discovered that, when you look at people that have prevailed, it's a celebration of the human spirit, that God made us and created us in his image and after his likeness. And in Genesis 1, it shows us how he prevailed over all the problems that the enemy had created, and God prevailed. And then God turns around, makes us in his image and after his likeness. And a lot of us have learned helplessness.
Correct. Yeah.
But we can learn how to make it through once we understand who we are in Christ Jesus.
It's a mentality. You either take on the mindset of a victim or a victor. It doesn't really change the fact that hard times come. You mentioned in your book that hard times are kind of cycle breakers. That there's an opportunity there. Now, that's a perspective that a lot of people probably wouldn't have. They would look at a hard time as, they've either done something wrong to deserve this hardship, or that they're, suffering for the sins of another. But whenever you describe a hardship or a hard time, you say it's a cycle breaker. It's an opportunity. What is that opportunity?
I think it's an opportunity for us to do life better, to know God, to know who we are, who God made us to be. And I look at two major pain deliverers, I call them, things that deliver pain. That's rejection, and then that's a crisis. Those two things bring the most kinds of, the heaviest kind of human pain, emotional, financial. But rejection really is a divine indication that you've outgrown a relationship, a realm, you've outgrown a situation. And the crisis is an announcement that it's time to move on. That rejection that comes, it comes to let us know again that we've outgrown and a relationship no longer has the capacity for our greatness, either to nurture it or to support it, or the realm that we're living in, or the season that we're in. These are all divine announcements that it's time to grow, it's time to move forward, it's time to progress. And, you know, I was looking at the story of Lot and his wife. And Lot uses alcohol, of course, as a pain reliever. But his wife is stuck.
Yeah.
She's really stuck. The pillar of salt represents people that move forward but can't move on.
Yeah.
They move forward while looking back.
She's still looking back. Yes,
yeah, you cannot. And, you know, so a lot of people ask the question, what do you do when everything you've built your life on goes up in smoke? And that's where a lot of people are with divorces, sickness, loss of children, loss of job, loss of reputation. What do you do when you cannot go forward, go backwards? You start with what you are, where you are, what you have. And everything necessary for you to fulfill God's original plan and purpose will come to you when you need it. But a lot of us see the obstacle. And we don't set goals. Goals move you beyond where you are. And I think,
and you said something very important about when you need it. You know, when you're talking about rejection and the things that come with rejection, being that you've outgrown a circumstance, I consider Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph was rejected by his brothers because he had outgrown that tent. He needed a bigger kingdom.
Yeah.
And yet God didn't give him the answer to Pharaoh's dream until he needed the answer to Pharaoh's dream. He didn't tell Joseph in the pit, hey, 7 lean years, 7 abundant years, you build the storehouses, you're going to be a hero. Yeah. Because had Joseph had that information so prematurely, he'd have started telling Potiphar, hey, there's going to be a famine. And then he'd have told this guy, hey, there's going to be that. And, you know, sometimes we talk ourselves into trouble because we don't have the ability to understand that God's timing, God's plan, it all goes in accordance with His purpose, not ours. How many times do we create our own trouble because we find ourselves impatient?
Yeah. Could things be the way they are? Yeah. Because you are the way you are. And what one thing can you change that can change everything?
Us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are trying to change everything outside of them. But the change begins on the inside. And I've discovered this, that change is not just a process, it's a person. It's Jesus Christ, allowing Him to refine those areas that hitherto have not been refined. And you know, I've discovered also that when life cuts you the deepest, is because God is just chiseling out another facet of His brilliance, and it allows His light to shine. So we're multifaceted, like a brilliant diamond. A brilliant diamond has 57 facets. And it's interesting, 24, and 33. Makes 57. I could count. and it's interesting because 24 is a number of priesthood. We are royal priesthood. 33 is the number of years that Christ died to recrown us with His glory. Mm-hmm. So you get the whole royal priesthood in a brilliant diamond. And, you know, diamonds can only be discovered when they're pushed up from pressure. So life's upheaval only brings the best out of you. Absolutely. And it's all about perspective. So this is what this book is about. It's a celebration of the human spirit and how God has created us after His image and after His likeness.
Well, thank you for being obedient to write that work. When we come back, we're going to meet a longtime San Antonio radio personality. Trey Ware joins us to talk about being refined, not defined. Stay with us.
There are thousands of children who are reaching for someone who will not reach back because they're not there. This is the reason we're building the Sanctuary of Hope. I want you to help me help these children have a mother that will take care of them, that will love them, and together with the Sanctuary of Hope, we can make this happen. God bless you for all that you do.
Find out more about the show by following Matt and Kendall Hagee on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Dear Pastor Hagee, I just wanted to write you to say how honored Ray Jean and I are to have been partners in your ministry all these years, and to see all the amazing things you've accomplished around the world with the gifts we and others like us have gladly given over the years. Furthermore, it has been so refreshing to see younger generations coming on board to partner with you in spreading Christ's message to the world.
I want to welcome you both to partnership with John Hagee Ministries. Together, we will make a great impact for Christ around the world.
May God continue prospering you in all your endeavors, your dear friends, Ron and Rayla Jean.
I want to thank you, our Salt Covenant partners, for making it possible for us to preach the gospel to the nations of the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
Become a Salt Covenant partner today. Call the toll-free number on the screen or visit us online at jhm.org.
What you see is a child reaching for her mother. There's nothing more beautiful than for a child to know that they're loved. There are thousands of children who are reaching for someone who will not reach back because they're not there. This is the reason we're building the Sanctuary of Hope. I want you to help me help these children have a mother that will take care of them, that will love them, that when they cry in the night, someone will come. When they get hungry, someone will feed them. When it comes time to teach them the way of the Lord, that someone will be there. And together, with the Sanctuary of Hope, we can make this happen. God bless you for all that you do to make the Sanctuary of Hope a reality.
Help give the gift of life. Call the number on the screen or visit jhm.org.
You know, problems are something everyone faces. Many people think that problems mean God doesn't love them. The reality of it is the Bible said in the book of Job that men are born to trouble. As sparks fly upward from a fire, surely a man is born to trouble. That's what Job said. The thing that we have to decide is that when trouble comes, that we do not allow trouble to change our lives in a way that redefines us, but it makes us better. You know, Kendall and I often talk about becoming better, not bitter, because life has its share of bitterness. It has its moments where you wonder why. You know, you and I, we walked through something with our parents not too many years ago where both of them were facing physical struggles. And
At the same time.
We spent a lot of time in the hospital. Yeah. And one day we were sitting there discussing,
each other as we're...
you know, I'm walking out in the morning as I've spent the night with Pastor, and she's walking in to go see her mother. They're literally one floor apart. And as we're passing each other in the parking lot, we saw a father who was pushing his child in a wheelchair. And we suddenly decided that our circumstance was something that God was going to work through and that we were going to get out of, and that we had many things to be thankful for instead of things to be upset about. You know, there are a lot of people who are watching today that might think that they've got something to be upset about. But oftentimes, what is it that you say?
Don't sweat the small stuff.
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
You know, reality is something that every one of us must face. When we face it, make sure that you face it knowing that God has a plan to use it, not only to prepare you for greater things to come, but to use it to help others heal.
Amen.
He's a God who will take every circumstance, according to Romans 8, and give you the opportunity to see His hand of good that will work out all things for His glory. I assure you, His promises are true, and if you'll allow those troubles to refine you, not define you, you'll come out on top every time.
Amen. Today on The Difference, we're talking about not letting our circumstances define us, but allowing them to refine us. Our next guest has experienced one of the toughest times any parent will ever know. Please welcome Trey Ware.
Guys, hello, friend.
Hello, my brother.
Family hugs, family hugs.
Yeah, why not?
Thank you
Good
so
to see
much
both
for
of you.
coming.
Have a
Good
seat.
to see you.
Appreciate it.
You've got plenty of experience in media.
I know.
But, you know, maybe
bit.
Yeah, maybe not on the talk show couch so much. Today we're talking about a subject that you and I have had the chance to visit about more than probably either of us would wish, and that's allowing tough times to refine, not define. You've known tough times, and a lot of people have sent their support and their desire to help, but sometimes you just have to decide, as you've said, take it one day at a time. Tell us about that.
Well, it starts off actually one step at a time. Both of you know my story, and some people may know my story out there, but we lost both of our children to suicide. 5 years apart, 5 days apart. And started with our daughter back in 2009, and before then she was having trouble in her life. And of course we sought help and we sought counsel wherever we could. And she continued to have good days, but absolutely horrendous days, awful days. And it ended up where she saw no way out and took her own life. And so it was devastating, and it was devastating to her older brother, because he felt like maybe there was something he could have done along the way. There's a lot of guilt that goes along with that, and a lot of pain and heartache and embarrassment, you know. So 5 years and 5 days to the day, he experienced the same situation, and it was absolutely, obviously devastating and crushing. And as you said, my wife and I, we've been married for 33 years. And early on in the marriage, we decided we were going to die as a couple. That's the way it was going to be, and we were going to be together for eternity. So there was no other choice for us but to sit down and figure out how we do this, how we get through these two absolutely horrendous tragedies that a parents can face. And I can tell you this, while these are horrendous tragedies, and I'm not anybody that's any more full of God's grace or mercy than anybody else, but you look across and you see tragedy everywhere. You guys were just talking about how there's tragedy almost everywhere you turn. We live in a fallen world, but there's absolutely no way that you could take one further step without the grace and mercy of God.
And you know, you've done that. You've got grandbabies. You know, you call yourself the grand dude.
I know. I love that.
And even in these trying and difficult times, you find reasons to press on. You know, now how much do those reasons play in the daily decisions that you make?
Well, as an example, when our daughter passed, we had our granddaughter we became parents again. And we looked at that as she was 2, and we said, we never prepared to be parents again. You know, I never thought I was going to be on my knees giving baths again. I thought I was done with them.
You may not remember this, but I'm sitting at your kitchen table, and AB, as you call her, she's standing there at the kitchen, and you and I are talking, and she goes, young yogurt, young, and you looked at me and you're like, what does she want? I said, she wants yogurt.
That's right.
And you're like, how do you know that? I said, I got a 2-year-old at home. I said, that's yogurt.
You speak 2-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. I said, you need an interpreter. And so you really had to kind of reset your clock. I
did, because our days of doing that were all over with, but it was such a blessing. You know, she was a blessing. To be in a position where we had to get up every day. We had to function every day.
Gave you a cause.
Oh, absolutely.
And for Nancy as well.
Absolutely. You know, she was heavily involved in AB's school and everything that was going on in her life. So it most certainly did. You know, it gave us something to really attach ourselves to and a reason to exist. And while we may question the plan of God, and we've talked about that many, many times, when our son died, we sat on the living room floor together, her and I, because it was just down to us now. And we sat on the living room floor and said, we don't know how we're going to get through this, but we're going to get through it. And we will do it with God's grace and mercy and His help. And so while we may question His plan, I have no idea what His plan is
asking
here.
why, yes.
I have no idea.
You can't comprehend it anyway.
No.
You know, I mean, as the heavens are above the earth, so are the ways of God above man. You can't sit there and say, I'm going to understand this if He tells me.
Well, and there's a couple things that were real important to us. First of all, you mentioned Romans 8:28 a minute ago. He's a good God. That's the place to start. So no matter what else happens to you, we live in a fallen world, and He does refine you through fire as well. You know, your dad wrote in Seven Secrets one time about going to Hebron in Israel and going to the potter's house. And the potter kept working the clay, and he'd find an imperfection, and he'd smash it and throw it back in the fire. And he said he kept throwing it back in the fire until he could hear it sing. And I think that's really important, is to try to go through the fires each time. And when you can actually sing through the fire, that's when God starts to see His image refined in you. The other thing has been very helpful to us. When you sat at that kitchen table, you said Philippians 4.
Yeah.
Philippians 4, man. And which is rejoice always in the Lord. Again, I say rejoice. Yeah.
And I can do all things through Christ.
Yeah, and that was so key because if you know what Paul was experiencing at that moment, he was in a Roman prison, under the ground, stuff pouring in on top of him.
Most miserable place in the world.
Incredible.
How could you?
Yeah, how could you possibly say rejoice? But if he could rejoice then, we could, and it's a command, rejoice always in the Lord. Again, I say rejoice.
Well, and you know, so many people, they see trouble, they see tragedy, they see heartbreak, and there's no other word. I mean, brokenhearted. They see all those things, and the thing that they add to it that has no business being involved as an ingredient is hopeless. Because if you are a person of faith, then you have a hope. And that hope is not circumstance. That hope is not having all of the details of life defined and clearly pictured in front of you. That hope is a person who is Jesus Christ. And so there are people who are watching and maybe they're hopeless. You know, you know something about the temptation to feel that way, but you still have a hope.
Well, as you said, the hope is Jesus Christ. You know, He's got a plan. You got to trust that He's got a plan. One thing that I have said at funerals or at other places that I've had the opportunity to preach or teach, based on Philippians 4, but also Psalm 139, you know, you didn't put yourself here.
Yeah.
And you can't decide when to take yourself out. That's not up to you. As long as you are awake every day, God has a plan for you. He's got a purpose for you. And it's up to us to try to discover that purpose through Him and then go about carrying out that purpose. Yeah. And you're going to face adversity. There's things that are going to happen to you. But just as the kite flies in the wind or the airplane flies in the wind or gold is refined by fire, you walk through that. It's not easy. It's the hardest thing in the world, and I still cry like a little baby. Sometimes I sit on the floor and you miss your kids. I'm a motorcycle guy. You know that. I ride motorcycles all the time.
But you and Justin did that together.
That was our love together. We rode all over Texas and beyond on motorcycles together. I miss him. I look in the rearview mirror. I want to see him back there.
Yeah.
But I know that God's got a plan through all this, and whatever it is, I'm going to trust Him. But anywhere I've tried to wrestle my control of my life away from Him, I messed it up. You know, I'm in sales, not management.
Yeah, that's right. That's
He's in management. He's in management.
Well, you know, Trey, for years you've been such an encouragement to the city of San Antonio. You end all your shows. I love you, San Antonio, and I know you mean it. And you know, San Antonio loves you, and not just the city itself, but the people in this city. You know, people love you because you are who you really are. You're a sincere voice of truth. You will present the issue and give people the opportunity to understand both sides of it. And you do it in such a graceful way. And it's just an honor to be able to sit here and give you the chance to share your story and encourage others with hope.
Well, thank you very much.
You're one of the good guys.
I appreciate the opportunity.
And we love you for it.
Thank you.
You know, today's guests have a lot to say about being refined and not defined. I don't know what you're facing, but I assure you it's not an accident you got to watch today's program. Regardless of the struggle, don't let it define you. Let the hand of God refine you so that you can overcome and prove what it means to be more than a conqueror through Christ. You're watching The Difference.